Imagine gliding alone on a frozen creek at midnight, the Michigan moonlight dancing on ice. You hear the scrape of skates behind you closer and closer, yet no one is there. Or picture a ghost town so deep in the woods it's literally called Hard Luck. From a lake named for starvation to a cave teeming with bats and another hiding ancient pictographs, Michigan's map is dotted with eerie secrets. Today, we're taking you on a journey to 5 of the strangest and most haunted locations in Michigan. Buckle up and maybe leave a nightlight on as we venture from ghostly skaters to caves of legends. Let's get to it. In the little town of Buchanan, winter used to transform Hickory Creek into a natural ice rink. Kids would spend all day skating on the frozen creek until dusk when parents warned them it was time to hurry home. Why? Because the Phantom Skater prowled those icy bends after dark. According to local lore, a towering figure in black tights and a skull cap would appear without warning. His skate blades sparked green and blue flames as he sliced over the ice, and he'd leap over snow-dusted bridges while letting out a shrill, haunting laugh. It sounds like a tale straight out of a campfire story, but for generations of Buchanan kids, it was a very real warning. Stay out too late and the Phantom Skater might catch you. One man swore the legend was true. The late Harvey Seasongood, who ran a farm supply store nearby, claimed he met the Phantom Skater as a boy. One frigid evening in his childhood, Harvey and some friends lost track of time on the ice, and suddenly they heard an awful scrape and another scrape of huge blades in the dark. The other kids fled in panic. Harvey wasn't so lucky. He got snagged on a barbed wire fence, scrambling up the bank. Trapped and terrified, he watched as a spectral skater slid into view under the moonlight. The figure was exactly as the legend described: enormous, dressed in black, blades shooting fiery sparks, and as Harvey told it wide-eyed, the being had hooves instead of feet and cast no shadow at all on the moonlit ice. Harvey wiggled free and escaped, but he never forgot what he saw. Was it a devil, a ghost, or just an overreactive imagination? He believed until his dying day that Buchanan's icy creek was truly haunted. Over the years, the tale of the Phantom Skater has persisted like puffs of breath on a cold night. Parents chuckle that it was a clever ploy to get kids home on time, and really, no recent sightings have been reported. These days, Hickory Creek is quiet. Perhaps children heed their parents, or maybe the Phantom got tired of waiting for stragglers. Still, on a silent winter night, if you skate there alone, don't be surprised if you feel watched. In Michigan, some legends never quite die, and our next stop proves it. Transitioning from a ghostly figure gliding on ice, we head north to a ghost town whose very name spells trouble, diving deep into the woods of Gladwin County toward a place called Hard Luck. Yes, you heard it right. Hard Luck is the real name of our next destination, and it's every bit as forsaken as it sounds. Tucked away in Michigan's Au Sable State Forest, Hard Luck was once a bustling little lumber town around the turn of the 20th century. For a brief moment, 1904, things were looking up here. A Michigan Central Railroad stopped at Hard Luck, a sawmill buzzed, and about 200 people called it home. They even managed to get a post office there, opened in April 24th, 1904, but by 1906, it was gone, and so was the town. Hard Luck, it seems, lived up to its name with almost comical precision. Barely 2 years of existence before the wilderness really reclaimed it. How did this happen to Hard Luck? The true origin is kind of murky. According to one old-timer's account, a logging train's engine had the words Peter Hardluck sprawled on its side, perhaps a nickname that stuck as a settlement's identity. Others say the lumber camp had more than its share of misfortune, so Hardluck was a tongue-in-cheek label for the hardy or unlucky folks trying to scrape by. To top it off, though, this vanished village lies within Grimm Township. Yes, Grimm. You can't even make these names up. Michigan's map makers had a sense of humor or something, I guess. I don't know. Visiting Hard Luck today is an adventure in itself. There are no paved roads into this part of the forest. You navigate sandy two-tracks and confusing forks under a canopy of pines. The forest has utterly swallowed Hard Luck as if Mother Nature said, "Nice try," and pulled the curtain closed. On a summer day, it's peaceful there, sunlight filtering through the trees, but as evening falls, the woods grow strangely silent. You might start feeling the hair on your neck rise a little bit, imagining the ghosts of lumberjacks or the echo of a train whistle in the wind. Hard Luck's only inhabitants now are wildlife, and swarms of mosquitoes, of course. Yet, there's something poetic about this lost place. Hard Luck reminds us that Michigan's boom towns could boom and bust in the blink of an eye. One moment there's a lively camp, the next is just a name on the map and a cautionary tale that I'm talking about. And as you stand on the lonely trail where Hard Luck once thrived, you can almost sense the emptiness left behind, the hopes and hard work gone like smoke. It's a ghost town in the truest sense, not necessarily haunted by specters, but by history and irony. And as we leave Hard Luck's quiet ruin, our journey is going to continue to another Michigan spot defined by a dire name and a deadly story. So we leave the shadows of Hard Luck and travel toward a lake whose very name whispers of tragedy. Our next stop is Starvation Lake, where the water's deep, the nights are long, and the legends, well, let's just say they're not just typical fishing tales. Northern Michigan is full of beautiful lakes, but Starvation Lake stands out with a name that sends chills down your spine. This 125-acre lake in Kalkaska County looks postcard pretty. Calm waters, pine forest, and cottages dotting the shore. But yet behind its sereneness lies grim stories from long ago. Local folklore offers two main and equally unsettling tales to explain how Starvation Lake actually got its name. In one version, an unlucky trapper set out his lines along the icy shore decades ago, and somehow he stepped wrong and got caught in his own trap, pinned and alone with winter's grip, making escape really impossible. The poor man slowly and literally starving to death on the frozen lakeside before anyone could actually find him. It's a horrifying image, the silent woods, the lake ice cracking in the distance, and a lone hunter who never returned home. Another legend speaks of fugitives or outlaws hiding out near the lake back in the frontier days. They fled into these woods to escape the law and held up into a cabin as the blizzard set in. The snowfall was relentless, cutting off any path to town. Days stretched on, their food ran out, and rescue never came, and by winter's end, the story goes, the authorities found nothing but corpses. The men had starved rather than face justice. Whether it was criminals or a trapped hunter, Starvation Lake became the stage for a deadly struggle against nature. The very name is a morbid memorial to those desperate final moments. Of course, that was long, long ago. Today, Starvation Lake is what we'd say a peaceful getaway, popular for fishing, boating, and winter snowmobiling, but on a sunny summer afternoon, you'll see families casting for bass or kids splashing, blissfully unaware of the lake's eerie name. But talk to the locals, and they haven't forgotten the lore. They might point to a quiet corner of the shore and recount the trapper's tale, or show you where an old cabin's foundation might hide under the moss. An early morning fog on the lake can still make you wonder if ghosts from those hungry nights wander the shoreline or not. There's a certain beauty here, as if the lake itself remembers. When the wind whispers through the trees, you might just hear it sigh. Starvation Lake's mystique has even seeped into literature too. The chilling name and close-knit community inspired Michigan native Brian Gruley to set a whole mystery series here. His novel, The Skeleton Box, is part of the Starvation Lake trilogy, weaving a tale of long-buried secrets in a small town, starting appropriately with a box of bones discovered in an old church. Gruley drew from Michigan history, a 1907 murder case, in crafting the novel, and he captures the spooky allure of this place perfectly. Reading it, you can almost feel the winter wind off the lake and sense those unquiet spirits of the past. The book's very title evokes what Starvation Lake's legends already taught us. Sometimes hidden under the ice or buried in the attic, there are skeletons waiting to tell their story. Whether through fiction or folklore, Starvation Lake leaves an imprint on anyone who visits. It's hard to forget a name like that, and harder still to forget the mental image of being cold, trapped, and alone in those woods. As dusk settles and the pine silhouettes darken, you might be grateful for the modern comforts of a warm cabin and a stocked pantry. But our journey, however, is far from over. We're trading the stillness of a haunted lake for an onslaught of living, fluttering creatures. Steel your nerves because our next destination involves thousands of bats and an old mine shaft that locals once feared was bottomless. We've braved ghosts and starvation, so what's a few bats, right? I mean, heading west to Iron Mountain in the Upper Peninsula, our path now leads to the famed Millie Hill Bat Cave. Don't worry, this next encounter with the unknown comes with wings and squeaks rather than ghosts and shrieks, though it's no less hair-raising the first time you see it, I'm sure. High on the hill above the city of Iron Mountain lies an old mining shaft with a second life that's equal parts fascinating and spine-tingling at the same time. The Millie Hill Bat Cave, really an abandoned vertical iron mine, is home to one of the largest bat colonies in North America. How large, you're asking? Try up to 1 million bats roosting deep in the earth. That's right, this 300-foot deep mine shaft has become a massive high-rise hotel for bats, with hundreds of thousands of little brown and big brown bats hibernating and breeding there each year. By day it's eerily quiet, but come dusk on a warm evening, the mouth of the mine just comes alive. Visitors who stand at the fenced viewing area are treated to a scene straight out of a horror movie or a nature documentary. As the sun sets, waves of bats pour out of the shaft, swirling into the sky like a tornado. It's a dazzling and slightly unnerving thing. Some might say beautiful, others might feel their skin crawl. This bat haven has an interesting history. Iron Mountain grew up around iron mines, hence the name, and when the Millie mine closed long ago, locals weren't sure what to do with the giant hole left behind. For years, rumors swirled that the old mine was bottomless, a pit that had no end, and in 1992, a brave caver named Steve decided to test that legend by rappelling in with 200 feet of rope and a flashlight. He didn't find hidden treasure at the bottom. Instead, he found bats. Lots of bats. And Steve realized it was a critical hibernation site for about 250,000 bats at the time. Not long after, the city actually planned to fill the mine in for safety, which would have buried all of those bats alive. Steve sounded the alarm, biologists and locals rallied, and thankfully the mine was saved as a bat sanctuary. The community stepped up to help build a sturdy steel gate over the shaft and installed benches so people could watch the bats fly out without disturbing them. What was once a spooky hazard is now a point of pride and a very unusual tourist attraction for Iron Mountain. So, is this Millie Hill Bat Cave haunted? Well, not by ghosts, unless you count the spirit of the old miners. The only spirits here are winged mammals flapping through the twilight. Stand by the fence on the early fall evening, the sun bleeding orange over the horizon, the town below obviously going quiet, and from the depths you hear faint rustling and high-pitched squeaks. Suddenly, the first bats emerge, then more, until a frenzy of 1,000 are swooping overhead, catching mosquitoes. Don't worry though, these bats aren't interested in your blood, they're after bugs, and each bat can eat its weight in insects in a night, making them the heroes of the ecosystem. In Michigan anyway, because the mosquitoes are so bad. I'm sure it's actually mesmerizing to watch, like nature's own ballet recital. There's a quirky, almost humorous charm too. Locals call this spot the bat viewing area, complete with informational signs. It's like the only place in Michigan where an evening out involves lawn chairs, cameras, and cheering for bats. Yet, as fascinating as it is, there's still that goosebump factor when you realize how many creatures are swirling around in the dark. If you've ever had a nightmare about bats in your hair, this might look like stuff from your nightmares. But it's also unforgettable. In a video about haunted Michigan, the Bat Cave earns its place not because of specters, but because the standing there at dusk, you feel like you've stepped into another world. Alright, it's time for one final journey, and this one will take us not just through space, but back in time. We're heading to a remote cliff on the shores of Lake Michigan where a hidden cave holds mysteries painted on stone. Our final stop is called Spider Cave, and it's a place where ancient art and spiritual echoes make for an atmosphere as haunting as anything you've ever seen. Deep in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, along the Rocky Garden Peninsula between Manistee and Escanaba, lies Burnt Bluff, a towering 150-foot limestone cliff facing the waters of Big Bay de Noc. Hidden high on that cliffside is a shallow cavern known as Spider Cave, also known as Burnt Bluff Cave. This isn't a spooky cave because of ghosts or bats, though legend has it there's probably some big spiders sitting around in there if that gives you shivers. No, what makes Spider Cave truly haunting is the sense of ancient presence you feel the moment you step inside it. The cave holds Michigan's only prehistoric rock paintings, authentic pictographs left by indigenous people possibly thousands of years ago. Imagine entering a dim cave by lantern light and finding red and violet images on stone walls as if they just handed them a box of Crayola crayons back in the day. Painted by someone long time ago, telling a story we can barely grasp. It's an experience that's eerie, awe-inspiring, and humbling all at the same time. Spider Cave gets its name from the most famous of those pictographs, the Spider-Man image. Faint but still seen on the limestone is a figure of a human man connected by what looks like an umbilical cord to a giant spider beside him. The drawing's pigments have faded to rusty red and blue hues, but you can make out the haunting shape. It's a human and a spider linked together in some mysterious embrace. What could it mean though? Many have wondered. Early archaeologists in the 1920s sketched it and dubbed it Spider-Man long before any comic book hero. According to the Ojibwe elders and scholars, the image likely has deep spiritual meaning. One interpretation is that the Spider-Man represents a figure related to the Grand Medicine Society. The cord between man and spider could symbolize a lifeline, the web of life, if you will. In Ojibwe tradition, it's said the circles painted beneath the figure's torso represent the circles of life and the many pathways a person can take on their life journey. Another faded painting nearby, known as the Big Man, is thought to depict the sacred keeper of the forest, standing guard over this holy place. In other words, Spider Cave was not a casual doodling spot. It was likely a sacred site back in the day, a place of vision or teaching for the people who lived there centuries ago. Time has not been kind to these ancient artworks, though. When the site was first studied and listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1971, researchers documented at least 13 pictographs around Spider Cave and the cliff face. They range from 6 inches to 2 feet tall, painted with mineral dyes mixed with fish oil and animal fat. Back in the mid-20th century, the landowners even ran a small tourist operation. They built wooden stairs up to the bluff and charged a quarter to see the Indian paintings. Visitors would climb up, stand in the very cave, and gawk at these prehistoric drawings. Unfortunately, all that human curiosity led to damage. People touched the paintings, traced them, and even wet them with water to make the colors pop for photos, unwittingly causing the pigments to bleed and fade, unfortunately. Over the decades, Mother Nature did her part too. Wind, rain, and time slowly eroded the exposed rock art. By 1995, only 4 images were still visible, and those were badly faded. As of the most recent surveys, just 3 or so faint pictographs can be found, and they're disappearing really fast. The extraordinary Spider-Man has lost several limbs to time. Only 2 spider legs could be seen by 2009, the rest overtaken by mineral deposits. It's heartbreaking to think that Michigan's only prehistoric rock paintings are vanishing before our eyes, essentially fading into oblivion. Today, Spider Cave and the Burnt Bluff stand quiet and mostly off limits to the public. The area is under the care of the Fayette Historic State Park, but park management largely leaves it alone, partly to prevent further vandalism, partly due to the challenging access of it. There are no more tour guides or stairs. If you tried to find it, you'd face a rough, unmarked climb on a wild cliff, which is strongly discouraged. In a sense, the site has returned to the solitude it likely had for centuries, and maybe that's fitting. Standing there, if you were lucky enough to do so with proper permission, you'd feel probably an uncanny stillness. The air inside the caves is cool and smells of limestone and moss. The only sounds might be wind off of Lake Michigan or the distant cry of a seagull. As your eyes adjust, you see those delicate lines of red and gray rock, the handiwork of the artist from Lost Time. A chill runs through you, not from cold, but from the realization that you're face to face with a message from people who walked this land thousands of years ago. It's a different kind of haunted feeling, not fear of a ghost, but the profound, almost spiritual presence of history. Spider Cave is haunted by memory. Some say you can feel the spirits watching over the site, the guardian of the forest that the Ojibwe believe protects it, ensuring that even as the paintings fade, the significance of this place is never forgotten. A precious treasure, nearly lost, but alive in stories and efforts of those trying to preserve what little remains of it. Michigan's strange and eerie locations range from the outright supernatural to the historically haunting. We've skated with phantoms, trekked through ghost towns, shivered at morbid legends, marveled at nocturnal creatures, and touched the edge of ancient mystery. The atmosphere of these places lingers with you, a mix of wonder, respect, of a few goosebumps for good measure. Michigan may be famous for its lakes and cherries, but it turns out the state has a delightfully creepy side as well. From Buchanan's Phantom, Ice Skater, to the Spider Cave, each stop on our tour offered a glimpse into the unknown, from folklore, history, or nature's marvels. It's the kind of journey that makes you see the Great Lakes State in a new light. If you're interested in the haunted, weird, and strange things about Michigan, I have a whole playlist of videos for you to binge watch that I will link in the description for you, but I wanted to ask, what other strange, weird, and haunted places do you know about Michigan? Drop them in the comments below. If you're not too scared to move to Michigan, I help people move to, from, and within the great state, and I love it. I also have a link to the Living in Michigan newsletter that I will link in the description for you for all things Michigan. Thanks for watching. Until next time.